Hey, Soul Survivors. We are with Joshua Schwartz today on his amazing journey from trauma to triumph, his empowerment and his healing journey. So, I do want to say something. I have a special announcement. Joshua and I were talking about this travel company that he has, and we were talking in chat about possibly getting together. And as soon as I get 5,000 subscribers, we're going to do a meet and greet. And Joshua has a lot of really cool places to go. So, we'll something to look forward to. But
Absolutely,
Joshua,
absolutely.
we've been getting to know you a little bit better in your traumatic story of growing up, also what you've been going through lately. You're currently in rehab. Can you let me know a little bit about some of the trauma that you've been through and how you can reflect back on it and how it has shaped your personality and also what struggles you go through?
So, hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it, and thank you guys for listening to me. Thanks for the great comments. I've been looking at some of the stuff you guys said. Yeah, so I'm currently in the Battle Creek VA. I actually discharged Monday, so I successfully completed the program. I'm headed to what's called a three-quarter transitional house. The VA, which is, if you guys don't know what that is, it's the Veterans Administration. I was in the United States Marine Corps, so I have benefits, and I'm 100% permanently and totally disabled through the military, and so I collect a pension. So this is some of the, well, you don't have to be 100% to come here, but you get a lot of benefits when you
Was
are. But
was that through a physical injury or is that from the mental health?
physical and mental health a little bit. So I've got a bad back. I hurt my back, and I still push through. I still still run 3 miles. I ran this morning 3 miles, and it's probably I should stop, but
But I'll tell you what,
so
I'm very impressed that you are taking your mental health in your own hands and really doing something about it. You've also been coming closer to God through your journey. And um, what are some of the things that they've been doing that are helping you cope with or kind of rewire your brain?
So unfortunately, I'll have to say that this particular program only focuses on substance abuse, and that was not really my intent when I came here. I explained that to them. However, I do understand in psychology and in any mental health situation, if someone's using any sort of substance, they need to come off that substance for a
Very
little bit
true.
before they can address the mental health. And so, with that being said, I knew that I needed to stop using for a little while. So this is a place where I locked myself away basically. So we've done groups and things like that, but I haven't really had any therapy since I've been here. So
Okay.
we're getting prepared to go into that. I have been getting some groups. We do groups here, and we do see a social worker one-on-one, and I do go to some groups like codependency because I suffer from borderline. And if you know borderlines, they suffer from codependency really bad and abandonment issues. And
A
so
lot of
this is
times
what
that's why they end up with the narcissist.
Right. And so this is why, yeah. So there's actually an article I was going to send you. I wanted you guys, I think I did personally did a video about it the other day about borderline and narcissist. When I think when I talked about the other deal the other day. But anyways, yeah, because the narcissist feeds off of our lack of boundaries, basically. They
Right.
feed on our soul. Like,
They
yeah,
do too, though. They
yeah,
destroy you and then they leave
yeah,
you a lot of
yeah.
times, or
It's
they just make it so intolerable that you have to leave.
Yeah, it's a sad, unfortunate part of reality, but and this is why I think Cynthia's doing this because it's a beautiful thing that God, with a little bit of tenacity, a little bit of intestinal fortitude, and with me personally, with God, I mean, I'm able to come through all of this stuff because this isn't. You guys have seen some of my stuff the other day, and this isn't really half of what. That's a huge component to it because that was stealing my family,
Right.
and what this girl did to me.
I
um
would I would like to quickly interject though, is like when you do have a God that you give your worries to, that she, however you want to look at it, they forgive you, and it takes the pressure off of you, because sometimes we try to deal with the shame or the why couldn't I have done it better, where we feel not enough. And if we can feel the love, we feel we are enough, we feel we are forgiven, because a lot of times we don't get that forgiveness from the people that we hurt, and sometimes we didn't mean to. It was either reactive abuse, or we didn't think, or misunderstandings, or sometimes we're just selfish. But that's why it can be really enlightening and uplifting when you give your power to, or instead of trying to be a God
Surrender.
yourself. Yeah,
Surrender.
surrender. That's a great word to use.
So for me, like I said to you, and I'm not sure if I said this to your viewers the other day, but I'll say it again. So, you guys know, I think I said it before, is that I was agnostic for 40 years. And, it wasn't until God saved me from that whole situation that I really started to seek. And once I did, I heard this saying the other day, and I'm trying to think of where I heard it from. I'm pretty sure it was from you should check out the BibleProject.org. If you guys don't know anything about God or anything about the Bible or anything like that, that's a great place to start. They make super duper, really easy to understand videos that help you kind of really understand the journey of the Bible. And you can do it in video format. And the guys are amazing. It's an amazing group. So I shout out to the BibleProject.org. But what I said to Cynthia the other day, and I'm not sure if I said this on your video the other day, but I'm going to say it now. So when you start reading that book, right, you start to get in that book and you start reading it, and you're getting the knowledge and the wisdom. But after a little while, the book starts to read you. And what I mean by that is you start to see yourself in those pages, right? So the book is now reading who you are. And now
Right.
you're seeing all of your flaws and all of your bad characteristics, but also your good traits as well. It's not just a negative thing. Don't look at it like, oh, it's telling you this, it's telling you that. You start to, it's like a mirror almost of what it means to be a good human being on this planet. And so when you see things, you can identify with the bad characters and the good characters. I identify with both. And so you can identify with your struggles and everything. That book is very relevant. This is why they call it the living word. This is why, it's the largest best-selling book in the history of history.
Right.
I mean, this book has been out there for thousands of years and it's still going and it's still relevant to today. And so yeah, absolutely, you can start to see some of those behaviors. And I even believe, and I know your channel, you do a lot of stuff about narcissists, and you could throw in the psychopath and the sociopath, and even including borderline, because we're all cluster B type personality disorder. I have a lot of the traits they have, the charisma, the manipulation, all of these things. I just choose not to use them in a bad way because of my codependency. It's really weird. Imagine having those traits, but then also feeling like you have to put everyone else's needs before yours. So you don't use those
How do
traits.
you feel about that? Because I've seen some narcissists where like that would be horrible to feel what other people feel. Do you feel what other people
Oh,
feel?
big time. And that's one thing you can also look up about borderline. We have overabundance of empathy. So I can go into a room and I can read the room and I can feel the room. So I was preaching to some gentleman last night, and and you could just see if you just really listen. And what I mean by listen, I want you to really take this in. When I say listen, I mean listen. I mean, look at them, look at their facial expressions, listen to what they're saying, not just verbally, but they're also saying something else with their body language and how they are. Pay attention to that. If you listen, someone will tell you what they want or what they're saying. And so, I'm ministering to guys that are 15, 20 years older than me. And I'm telling, and one of them, I see loads of anger and I let him, and these people are amazed because they're like, I'm seeing through them, and they
Right.
see that. And most people don't because they're overlooked. And so that's in a sense, what Jesus did. And I'm not, again, please don't think I think I'm Jesus. I don't think I'm Jesus. Jesus never smoked crack or slept with hookers. Okay. Jesus never did that. However, I have the compassion and I have the care, and I understand from my own trials and trouble. I understand that what it's like to be on that side of the fence. I understand why sometimes these bad behaviors, because people aren't bad inherently, right? Intrinsically, they're good, right? Inherently, like, we're good people, we have bad behaviors, we do these bad things. And so I understand because I've been on that side, and I know I can reflect because I'm very good with introspection and self-reflection. And I can look back and say, I know why I was doing these things.
What
XYZ was causing me to do
what are
this.
what are some things that would cause bad actions?
Well, for example, when you grow up and you're told you're worthless your whole life, or you're not given any love, or you're just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You're put off, what is, there's the word, I can't think of
Dismissed.
the word. Dismissed,
Dismissed.
thank you. When you're completely dismissed, then you feel like, for this is something me, this is personal. So I'm giving you personal side of it. But when you're completely dismissed, your whole life, like I seek validation anywhere I can get it. Like that's something that it's like a drug, right? Validation, because I didn't
Right.
get validation. And so that's the motivating factor. That was the motivating factor for my bachelor degrees. That's the motivating factor for most of,
Right.
not now. The whole master's,
Yeah.
degree, the master's in divinity. That's not because of that. It's because God saved my life, and I want to do what God wants me to do. And hence why Cynthia brought this up earlier before we were talking. Before we came live about the whole travel agency thing and what I'm getting ready to do in travel. It is so that I can minister. I am using this travel agency as a sort of an angel investor or a funding way or a way to uh, bankroll the ministry that I'm trying to do, because I have been going around the world the last year ministering to
Right.
people on my dime, and I don't make a tremendous amount to be able to do that, and I want to take a group with me. I want to take lots of people, because I've been told by some people that are really close to me who are in the ministry and are in spiritual and in faith, is that you can't be doing this alone. Like it's specifically stated in the Bible, like Jesus sent
Yeah.
the disciples out 2 by 2. So you can't do it. And so I suck at that. But anyway, so with that being said, some of the so on the flip side of that coin, yes, it's drove me to seek validation, right? Mostly good validation. However, on the flip side of the coin of that, you get the shame and guilt. And then you shame yourself all the time. Well, imagine if you're shaming yourself constantly, how you feel inside, right? So
Right.
then what do? You go out and you seek these external things that you think, not they
Right.
can, you think that they can fix the problem
And
or
they
fill this
they might
hole.
numb it, but they don't fix it because you're not addressing it.
Correct. And in all of that, that doesn't necessarily mean, I don't mean just drugs. I don't mean alcohol. It could be money, shopping, food. It could be destroying
Good
another
point.
person. It could be hurting someone else because it makes you feel better and more powerful. If you want to really tap into a narcissist or a psychopath brain, generally what happened is, as a child, their power was taken from them. Okay, so psychopathy is a lot different, right? And I think we talked about this before, right? In psychopathy, you've got this prefrontal cortex in your brain, and it's your emotion, not your emotion, your thinking and your rationale and your reasoning part of the brain, and your amygdala is your emotion part of the brain.
Right.
So generally, people with psychopathy have very small prefrontal cortex, gray matter in there, and it's not firing like, it's half the size of what a normal person's brain is. So their amygdala is driving their actions, so they are driven off emotion and what they want, your survival instinct. And so with and narcissism, I'm not so sure about the brain chemistry. Sociopathy, right? Sociopaths is completely different. That's environmental. And
Right.
what they're doing is they're blocking out a lot of that, and they're being driven. And so for them, they're hurting people really bad. But if you were to take a step back in time and look at their lives, it's generally because these people, and a lot of people are like this, their power was stolen from them, or their control. We talked about this in the book, How We Love, and how you were nurtured as a child and how you relate to people. And so, a lot of times you have either the controller and the victim. How do you play it? And a lot of times these people with these power trip type things is because the power was stolen from them as children. And
Right.
so they need this sense of power, and everybody's different. Everybody's seeking different things externally, but that's why it's very important. And I'm going to plug this till the day I'm dead. I don't care. That's why it's very important that we stand on the word, because we seek the validation of who we really are in that book. Nothing outside of here is going to give me that validation. There's not anything that can say, yeah, somebody can say good job and give me a pat on the back, Josh, but is that really filling that hole of
Well,
the
if you don't
validation?
if you don't feel it, it's empty words.
Right. And so that's why it's very important, because as you're reading that book and it
Right.
begins to read you begin to get convicted. The enemy wants to condemn you. The evil, the darkness of the world, they want to condemn you. You're so bad. You did this. You smoke crack. You terrible person, right? That's not what God does. You always have to equate God as a parent to a child. We are the children. God is the parent, right?
Right.
And if you look at some families out in the world, you'll see healthy families, healthy parents. And if you do that, do the parents scream at their children when they screw up? Do they smack them and beat them? Are they hard on them, or do they tell them they're never going to amount to anything? No,
No.
they talk to them about the situation, what happened, how to address it next time, where we can improve, what we can do. That is called conviction. It is called, look, I want you to understand what you've done is wrong, or what you're doing or the path you're going is wrong. I love you. We all make mistakes. It's
Right.
wrong, but you know you need to fix this behavior. And that's what the Bible does. And so for me, the transition to this, because I did have bad behaviors. Now,
And
generally, I'm
sometimes just bad communication too.
very much. And so I am very, very empathetic, and I can read a room. And one thing that I hated about my ex-wife was this. My ex-wife was an emotional energy vampire. And she would suck the life out of me. And she knew what to do. And only because God gave me the ability to protect myself, I can shut that off. I can just completely go blank, and then you're never gonna, get the good feeling and the light or whatever it is. And so in the beginning, I would just give it to her, like, it's like this. I'll give you an example. We'd wake up in the morning, and I'm a happy-go-lucky morning person. Just the way I am right now is the way I am when I wake up, right? So for everybody out there, this is why I'm single right now. Because when we roll over and I roll out of bed, I'm like, good morning, like Robin Williams,
Next.
good morning, Vietnam. That's who I am. And so she would wake up, on the other hand, and be super angry and irritable and just, and wouldn't want to talk and just get away from me. And I would feel horrible that she would wake up like that.
Right.
And so, because I knew her issue, she was an insomniac. She had, I mean, you could tell she would sleep, and she had to sleep with her blanket covering her face like this. You can see that someone hiding. She's hiding from something. And I knew what she was hiding from. And so for years this went on. I felt terrible, and so I would give her my energy. And then within a matter of an hour or two, flip. Now I'm feeling terrible and I'm upset, and she's happy-go-lucky, right? And you can call that the narcissist, whatever, depleting me, whatever. I was giving that to her. At the end of the day, you do have the power. If you don't think you don't have the power, you have the power, because I would shut it right off. And at the very end of our relationship, last year and a half, I shut it off. So she would
How
get
long
up.
was it good for? How long was
Uh,
your
we, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever good, but maybe, if I say anything, maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years, it was all right. And then after that, it's really awkward. And it's probably because this is a huge trigger, especially for people who are molested. And if you think, fact check all this information I'm giving you, because trust me, I've done the research. So one big trigger for people who are molested is sometimes marriage. And as soon as we got married, boom, everything went to shit. And that's when she started cheating it all the time, and yada yada yada.
They say
And
a lot
that
of
is,
times narcissists, as soon as they get married, that
well,
it falls apart.
it and that's what happened. As soon as we got married, she started cheating all the time and this and that, because maybe she felt like she was locked down or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I don't know that. I know that it's a trigger because I've researched it and I read it, and it does say a little bit about, them feeling like now this is it, they're locked and here we are and whatever. Or sometimes people that are molested feel like they lose the control. Now it's over. Now we're married now, or it's going to go this way or whatever. But everybody has their own reasons. And so but I would shut that off. And so she hated me for that. She could not stand me because I wouldn't give her my energy. I would not
Oh,
give her my energy. And so she hated me. And then she would just get more vicious and more mean, and more crazy stuff would go on. And so, yes, if you do look up borderline and look up empathy, you'll see that generally borderline, what does that make sense? And I think we talked about this, because cluster B type personality there's a name for this. If you guys don't know what the street name, like a street drug, right? There's a street name for this, right? It's called the dark triage, right? Or triad, whatever.
triad,
It's
the
the
dark
triad.
triad.
There, sorry, yeah, triage. Let's go get checked out by the nurse. No. But but anyways,
Now
yeah, the dark triad of
the dark
traits.
triad, that's I can never say it, Machiavellianism
Machiavellianism.
and
Machiavellianism.
psychopathy and narcissism. So that is not the dark triad, is those three, not borderline. Cluster
Oh,
B,
well, so when I thought cluster B type personality, I
you're
just
not in the dark triad.
I know I'm not. So thank you, Father. I really am glad I'm not, because
Right,
I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this interview with you and talking
right.
about this,
And I have
because it would be.
videos on the dark triad if they want to view that
I
as
would
well.
I would definitely like to view it. So yes, very much so. But yeah, so it's weird that I fit in this category with these other type personality disorders, or maybe they're just saying, maybe I need to do a little bit more research. Maybe they're just saying that these are actually personality disorders, because here's the thing about a personality disorder. It's your personality. You can't
Right,
change it. You can't pop a pill, it doesn't go away. You can't do something and you're cured. You can manage the symptoms or manage the, whatever's going on, but you cannot, it doesn't go away. That's why I get paid for
right,
the rest of my life, because it's not going to change. There's nothing that, and that's why I'm coming to get therapy, to learn to get coping skills, to be able to see this. And maybe, sometimes, because it is getting better. The older that I get, the better that it gets. I can start to see a lot of, where I'm able to cope, or I'm able to pull myself away and back off from a situation. And that's fantastic, but I still slip up. I still
right.
struggle. I still have, issues where, I'll go off the rails or whatever, or my crazy brain will start going in wherever it wants to go. And again, that's why for me personally, it's very important that I stay in the word, because that's what helps reel me back. Every time I start to go off left field, look how quick. See, I don't know how long you were following my page, but if you have been following for a little while, you see I was doing good, and then I went off the rails,
Yeah.
and I would for a while, but then I was doing good and I went off the rails for a little bit, and I came right back real quick. I was like, hey, versus it taking years to, now I'm starting to notice it more and more. And I'm like, oh, you need help. All right, time to go get help. Get the help you need, and then go back out there. And so, that's why it's very important for me in my spiritual walk. And that is why I'm going to get my master's in divinity. Also, because when I do, this travel agency is really starting to take off. And when I do travel, I think that, I need to have, I need to be able to stand so firm on that word. Like my foundation needs to be so,
On point.
strong. Yeah, that I am good when I go out there. Because I will tell you guys, my year of traveling the world already, I've been in situations where I have been unable to have, the answer, or to
Right.
even kind of
I'll tell
talk to
you,
these people.
I considered I was gonna become a youth pastor. I thought about
Okay.
doing that, but I got a little worried because I heard that, that the teacher preachers are the ones that are going to be judged harsher by God. And I also
Yeah,
was a
absolutely.
little worried that I wouldn't know enough. And it's just like, I don't want to represent something I don't know enough about if I'm the teacher, if that makes any sense. So
You're 100%
because
right.
you're playing with somebody's salvation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up somebody's salvation, but
Yeah, very
it's
much. You hit the nail right on the head with that. Like you are spot on, right? That's why I'm going to get my master's in divinity, because you are right. It does say in the word, it's not a saying, it's I can get the scripture and pull it out and show you. You will be judged much harsher than people that are just believers.
so
If you're,
I teach art instead.
you know, I I
I'm hoping to get a psychology teaching job. I will find out in the next few weeks.
is
That's the
that
goal.
is that what is your field? I mean, do you have a
I'm
degree in
certified to teach
psychology?
psychology.
What does that mean exactly? Certified? I don't know, because I thought you like
Yeah,
psychologist.
no, like at high school, the teacher that teaches that class, that would be me.
So okay,
But
because they're
I'm
not
actually
psychologists.
I'm checking into different programs. I'm like a certified life coach and
Okay.
hypnotist. I want to ask you about hypnotism. I haven't done it. I took the class, got certified out of interest, and it would be kind of nice. I told the story about me when I was in high school. They tried to hypnotize me, and I'll just a quick little recap. I'm a burn victim. At my 5th birthday party, I caught on fire. So in this high school auditorium, she's talking to me, do this, relax, da da da. And I see myself going down this tunnel, and you see a light at the end of this tunnel. And I'm this little girl going down this tunnel, and then I'm like started like freaking out, like I don't know what's on the other side. So I
Right.
snapped myself out of it, but I'm already in front of this whole auditorium. So I put on a little show like it hurts and made up this whole story that I went back to my 5th birthday party. um,
Hmm.
because she had said it just so happened, like everybody had to do certain little things, that bark like a dog or whatever they did. Then when she came to me, she said, go back to your favorite birthday. Now it wasn't my favorite birthday, but something in me is like, yeah, I'm going to do this. But then I got scared, and it was interesting about the light at the end. Why did I see that? It was kind of odd. And I didn't know what I'd be crossing over into. Now they do say sometimes, therapy or hypnotism can, there's ways to get deeper into
Oh
you
yeah, your
to feel
psyche,
it. I did,
repressed memories, repressed thoughts. I
what are
mean, I
your
would be
feelings?
interested. I mean, hey, if we have this live interview next weekend, let's give it. I mean, I'm not
Doing
opposed to anything.
live.
You know,
Um,
I'll be your guinea pig as long as we're not taking pills. I'm good.
because
You know,
I did talk to a pastor, and I just asked his thoughts on it, and he suggested against it. And I'm like, even if it's used for good, because there's no way you can get into somebody's mind to have them do, like, if you would never kill someone, I can't get you to kill someone. You're gonna stop yourself,
oh no, no,
you
no, no.
know.
I
And
think what it is personally like. So I think you're just guiding someone
yeah,
into parts of their memory that they've avoided and locked away. And I
right,
think that you're guiding them. And listen, people have to remember this. And this is, you're not going to hear this from pastors at churches. They're going to be very, because again, they are judged a lot harsher. But here's the thing that I don't care. And so at the end of the day, like, God gave us everything under this sun, under this sky, even the enemy, even the evil, even everything. It was all one big grand scheme of things. God gave us psychologists and doctors. You know, back in the day, they would have been called witches, and you know what I
right.
mean? You would have been burned at the stake. God gave us all of that. I made a comment, and I want to go back and talk about it because I don't want your viewers to think that I'm against medication. I am on medication right now. I'm in an anxiety med. Now I tried Abilify, which is the aripiprazole, and
Say that
and
3 times.
yeah, aripiprazole. Anyways, it I it I could feel it messing with the front part of my brain. I could literally feel it. And people say whatever, but I could feel it messing with the front part of my brain. I would feel pressure and headaches in the front part of my brain, my prefrontal cortex, and
Yeah,
that's where it's supposed to, start
right.
doing.
Now
And
the
so
actual brain itself doesn't feel, there's no nerve endings in the brain, but yeah, you can feel when things are going
it's
on in your
it's
brain.
weird. I don't understand, but because how do you feel a headache then? You
It's
know
on
what I
the
mean?
outside though. You got nerves on the
Oh,
outside and
okay. Well,
fluid
I
and all
was
that.
feeling it. I was feeling it like right here. Every time I took that pill, I would feel it
And
for a
I
little while.
wonder
Then
too, like, if it, because the brain is neuroplastic, but I wonder if it swells a little bit, so you can feel
yeah,
pressure
I
with the
don't know.
fluid, or, but
It's I didn't like it, but it made me really angry for like 4 days. I was snapping at everybody and the nurses. It made me insomnia. I didn't sleep one night at all. So I just stopped taking it. So, but I want to touch on this. I am not saying that all medicine is bad. I am saying this. I have experience with my child who my ex-wife put on 20 different meds. At one point, he was on 11 different medications. He was 9 years old, cut his wrist, went to the psych ward. He'd been in and out of the psych ward a million times. 11 years old, cut his wrist, went to the psych ward. My son has been through hell on medications while they played with his brain. So I'm very much against meds personally. I like the holistic approach. I'm not saying there isn't time that meds aren't appropriate.
right.
Personally, I struggle, and this is going to sound really crazy. I struggle with marijuana. That's my addiction, right? I've done all these drugs, everything, but marijuana is the only thing that's kept me locked down for years. And I agree 100% marijuana has an amazing medicinal purpose. It does. I believe that's what marijuana was made for,
Now
was medicine.
I don't do use marijuana or anything like that, but are there any contraindications, any bad side effects other than
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's
I
the one
mean,
thing. Like if it calms you down, I get it, or if it alleviates some pain, but are we taking into account what those contraindications are, what the side
no,
effects?
it's no different than if you take aripiprazole and their
Okay.
side effects. It's actually much worse. I would rather do marijuana because there's way less side effects. It's very natural, homeopathic. However, it's not good for me because I have an addictive personality, and so I would just smoke. I would get high from morning till night, and I mean, literally, I would sleep with my vape pen. It was bad. So it's not for me, but for people that use it correctly, like
Right.
maybe, I know people that only maybe might smoke once or twice a day because they have cancer or they have whatever and they need it
Right.
to eat and feel better. Yes, I would always recommend anything homeopathic, anything natural over any sort of pharmaceutical. I'm sorry, that's just who I am and that's the way it is and that's what I stand on. But I am not saying that there is not proof to show that medication in certain instances is good. So, you can take it how you want. When I came here, I told them I want homeopathic. I'm sorry, I said it's spiritual, homeopathic, dietary changes, which I have become a vegetarian. However, I want to say this. Here's
I'm
my
having a
I
hamburger
screwed up
today.
last night. No, no, I have hamburgers every day. Actually, I have black bean burgers every single day. No,
I
I
have
played
salads every day.
I
So,
played bingo last night, and they give us the American Legion came, and we win these things. I'll show you. They're called. Hold on. Ouch, my hip.
I'll
They're called
entertain you while he's gone.
canteen bucks, right? And each one's
Oh,
worth $1. So that's $1 in the store, right? So I,
oh,
I got six
nice.
of them. So that I got this hat because this was $20 for this Under Armour hat. I got a bunch of stuff for real cheap
How
out of
fun.
the store. But so the American Legion was there, and they always bring snacks and all kinds of stuff. They treat us really well. And so uh, we go through the snack line, and I grab some chips, and I grab some cookies, and I grab a Kool-Aid drink or whatever, and I grab 3 or 4 Slim Jims. And I get back to the table, and I sit down, and I eat 2 of the Slim Jims, and I put some in my bag to bring back.
They're not real meat.
So look, last night I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't even thinking, right? Because I was just like I was on my phone the whole time and I was playing bingo. And I ate and I got back. And last night I'm sitting here and I'm watching The Chosen. And I'm like, you know what? I intermittent fast every day. And I did not last night because I'm like, I'm gonna have a cheat day. Like you can look at my calendar because I use the app on my phone and see the amount of intermittent fast that I've done.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? Tonight I'm watching a show. I'm having some snacks. This is what I'm doing. And so because of that, I get out one of the Slim Jims, I open it, I eat it, and I set the wrapper down, and I'm just sitting here, and then I look down and I go, and the light bulb goes off. Ding, you just ate meat.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. And so here's the thing. I'm not a vegetarian because I'm trying to save the animals. Sorry for the people that want to save the animals. I'm an avid hunter. I believe wholly on the circle of life. Watch The Lion King.
Right.
If you don't want to watch The Lion King, go out your front door or go to the desert, the safari, and watch a lion rip to shreds a zebra. This is how it works. So I'm a vegetarian purely because of health reasons. There's a movie out there or a documentary called Game Changers. I highly recommend you watch it. Some of my friends here won't watch it because they don't want to stop eating meat because it talks about the science. Because there are scientists and there's biology and biologists on there, and it will show you exactly the science of what meat does to your body. And if we wanted to even go a step further in the Bible, if you do know it, in the very beginning, we were vegetarians. We didn't eat meat. It didn't come
What
until
about our
later on.
canine teeth? We're meant to eat meat.
These are not canine teeth, and they're not meant to eat meat. So
Mine are.
I want you to. She said mine are. Yeah. And hey, that's great. I'll just say this: I switched to vegetarian, and in 3 weeks, I lost 20 pounds. My clarity has been in my brain has been unreal.
Really?
People say
Now, do you think
people
it's just
say,
red meat or all meat? And what about fish?
oh,
I don't like fish, but what about fish?
so people, I don't like fish either. You can be a pescatarian. That's what a pescatarian is, someone who eats vegetables and fish. I don't like fish. I like shellfish. I love it, like shrimp, clams, lobster, crab, all that. I absolutely love it. I can't stand fish. I like fish, I'll eat fish, but if it tastes like fish at all,
Yep.
you can have it. If I get the little tuna, you can have it. Salmon, you can have it. Some of the fish and chips, like a staple in the UK is fish and chips, right? Well, I ate so much of it over there, but it's like cod and it doesn't taste like fish, and you're like, oh, this is really just crunchy. But anyways, so as far as like my energy levels, my brain clarity, my weight loss, all of that changed when I changed my diet. So there's that. So that's what I did that for. I did it to do it holistically. So that was the next thing.
And just
Now,
disclaimer, check with your doctor before you make dietary changes. I just have to say that.
yeah, very, very much, because I did have a dietitian. I have a dietitian here. That's the beauty of being in this program. We are very well taken care of. And this program here is really substance abuse, but all of this whole place, Battle Creek, the VA is actually just a ginormous mental health facility. It's massive.
Because it's body, mind, and soul. Like I was saying
Right.
about that earlier. You can't just work on your body. You can't just work on your mind. You can't just, work on your soul.
Well,
If you're, you got to work
if
on all three.
if you look at my Facebook page, and you look at I have a
I
group
wanted
that
to
I
ask you, is
started.
it just Joshua Schwartz for people to find it? Or does how do they find you?
It is. So you can find me through Joshua. You might be able to. You can find me through Joshua Schwartz. Sometimes some people have a really hard time finding me. You can find me through Fat Private, FATPVT, and the reason that is because in the military I was overweight and chunky, and I was a private, so my friends called me Fat Private, and it stuck. And then the last
Oh,
one,
don't let that stick.
I mean, yeah, it's a
It
badge of
is.
honor, you guys. I wear it as a badge of honor. It's a term of endearment from the military, my friends. I know maybe not you
Okay.
guys, but these are my
If you
military
embrace it,
buddies.
if it means something kind to
It does.
you.
It does. I mean, it means a lot. It's my homeboys. We all got nicknames. We're all in the military. Yeah. And then the last one is, if you can't find me with either of those two, you can always look up Destination Dopamine, which is the page. You should be able to find that no problem. And that's the travel agency. And from there, I'm the owner of the page. So you'll be able to find it. So, but what I wanted to tell you guys about was not that group. I have a support group. I would love for you guys to join it. And I started this years ago, and it's just what Cynthia touched on. I'm going to expound on it a little bit more. And so what I learned on my journey is there's 4 facets to life. Your spiritual, and it's funny, right? This is a play on words, because in the Marine Corps, we have a saying, Semper Fidelis. It's a
Right.
Latin saying, and it means always faithful. And so I thought of this, and I was like, wow, I'm going to play this on words. So I have this support group called SEMP support group, and it goes like this. The 4 facets to life that you have are your spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. If one of those areas is out of whack, your entire life is out of whack. I don't care what it is. And so it's very important that you work on those 4 parts of life in order to live a successful, full, whole, healthy life.
Right.
And that is exactly what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Well, I mean, with the exception of the last 6 months or so, I was kind of way
Right.
out of whack. But that's what I've been trying to achieve. I haven't been living it per se, but I've been really working hard to achieve that, because I understand that's where it is. So you can find that group through my page, or you can find that group. It's S.E.M.P. STEMP, and then STEMP support group. And I think the picture is a picture of healing hands.
Yeah.
And so we go there, we talk a lot about, traumas and stuff like that. Actually, it hasn't been active in a couple of years. I'm trying to get it. I got a couple people on there moderating it right now, posting all kinds of stuff. There's not a ton of interaction. I don't, and it's a closed group. So you're more than welcome to say what you want there. That's one of the things that I very, I tell people, look, it's like AA, what's said here stays here. We don't take it out. And I also have chat rooms. If you need to vent, or if you need to say something, I have rooms where you can speak to just me or a moderator.
And a lot of times people just need somebody to speak to, or somebody to validate their feelings. It's
I'm
not.
on the computer 24/7. So if you could see my setup right here, I'm always on the computer, or I'm always on my phone. So I'm always just a click or phone call away.
There you go.
So
you're going to be going into a different treatment. Is it a facility you're going to, or it's a home?
It's a house. So I'll live out in town in Battle Creek like I said, it's a 3-quarter house. and I'll still have the same rules. I'll have to attend therapy outpatient. I'll have to go to groups, have a curfew, no drinking, no drugs. I have to take drug and alcohol tests, all that good stuff. But what I'm going to be doing, what they do is to keep you busy, because here you're locked down, and then I mean, you're not okay. Hold on, you're not locked down. I could walk away and know nothing. You're not locked down. We
It's
go
the
out. We
honor
do.
system type thing,
Yes,
right?
it
Yeah.
is very, very
We
much
had
so.
that.
But
I was a juvenile probation officer, and yeah, they could.
but we're military. I mean, that, you know what I mean? That we're here to get the help. Like, you know, because they have golf. We have a golf course. We have a mini golf course. We have a basketball court, baseball diamond. We have a pool. We have a gym. We have a bowling alley. We have a theater. We have so much stuff here to do all the time. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't think I did. But one of the things that I do for therapy that I really love, and it's not therapy for me, is I take singing lessons. We have
You
music
know
therapy
what?
here. You
Right
can
here,
learn to.
I have my own microphone. Yeah, and
I s-
you're
I
singing.
am. We've been practicing the song Hallelujah, Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
and Hallelujah, and so they have singing lessons here, and they consider it music therapy, and I consider it
Yeah.
hell yeah. I don't have to pay thousands of dollars for music therapy
And that's
lessons.
like
So
art therapy, music therapy,
yes,
sometimes
that
just
is
keeping
specific. That
yourself busy sometimes, you know, and like with the singing, it's it's uplifting. I love it, you know, not that
I
I'm,
love to sing.
I used to be a
I
really
love it.
good singer, but my ears pop now. So sometimes I'm a good singer, sometimes I'm not. But
Oh.
yeah, it kind of brings me back to my childhood too, because I used to do something called choral airs where we're like dancers and singers. We did little um show.
Yeah, I saw your for
Oh,
my
that what
yeah,
you saw what my
you
tap dancing? Or
I
would you
saw all your, well, you have a lot of Facebook accounts and they liked my page.
Oh, you
And
saw
so
oh
and so I went back and I'm looking at the likes and the follows because I just started the page, and so there's not a bunch of people on there, and I clicked on one of your profiles, and that's what it was. You were had like some dancing, right? And you were in some outfit, you like,
that was
right? It
just
said
2 years
a
ago.
couple of years ago. Yeah, it said
Yeah.
core something. I thought,
But yeah, in high school we did corollaries. But yeah, I've done
okay.
so many different things. It's crazy. You ever get to the point where you're like, I, I should just shut up because I'm like, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did. But all the
No, that's good.
twists and turns in life, I had it before where people like just even my education, things like that is just, you know, law school and nail tech and just everything. So, but yeah, I'm really glad that you and I have connected though, because you have like a spiritual factor. And I am thinking about continuing on with my master's in psychology. Just trying to see how many credits transfer because I already have some towards my master's. But never give up on yourself. You know, a lot of people get so down that they either fall into bad habits or they lower their self-esteem because they start negative self-talk. And we have to really focus on positive self-talk, mindfulness, reconnecting with people. Because a lot of times we're lonely, but we start isolating ourselves even more. Were you isolated by your ex-wife? A lot of times they either
No.
no.
I don't. I let. So I'm. If you can't tell, I'm very extroverted.
Yeah.
I'm a big
And
introvert.
I
No,
wonder if it has something to do with the fact that you're male, a little more traditional where
no, because I'm
no.
even more extroverted for most of the guys around here. And I
Yeah.
think the reason I am the way that I am is because I have this special gift that was given to me, and I need to be able to put myself in social situations where it would scare lots of people, and I don't get scared. I don't care. And maybe that could be a little bit of the autism, right? We talked a little bit about that, and
Yes. Yes.
it could
Lily,
be
this is for you.
it could be,
I think it was Lily that asked, or maybe it was
it,
Liz. Go
it
ahead.
could simply be that, and yeah, we talked about that earlier, that component of it. And my son was diagnosed with ADHD, but then later on, years later, saw a lot of therapists, and he saw another therapist. Last one he saw said maybe he was misdiagnosed and he might be a little bit autistic, because my son is a spitting image of me. Like, I don't mean visually he looks like me, I mean got he's got my brain. We're the same, pretty much
Does he
exactly.
struggle with any addictions or anything like that?
Oh yeah, that's why I won't go back to his house. I love my son to death. I don't need, I could leave. I could leave Monday and go back down to Detroit and stay with my son. And he was okay with it. He let me live there. He wouldn't care. I care because I'm 44 years old and I'm a man and I should have my own place. And I feel like, I feel like I'm not ready to play that old grandpa yet where I'm staying I'm 44, I'm not like,
Right.
65 or 70 where I'm going to stay at home and I
Do you
love
like the
being there with my,
nomad life? Is that kind of
absolutely. Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I moved around a lot as a kid, but I was settled down. I mean, two separate times, 8 years. And with my last wife, I had a house and I had a job and I thought this was my life and it didn't. But now I had 2 years when I was living in the middle of the woods, but I like this life.
really
I've been doing it for the
just in
last,
the
yeah.
in a house in the woods or just in the woods?
So that's what I was going to tell you. We were talking about isolation and you brought up a point. Um, so I'm very extroverted. I talk, I'm not scared really. I can get on stage and talk to a bunch of people. I don't really care. What I struggle with is when I start to go down the road, I'm not seeing it or whatever, so we talked about something here, and I think I told you this before on one of the videos before that I never knew, mental and emotional relapse. So I relapsed way before I was even picking up alcohol or weed.
Okay.
And and so when that decline starts to happen, that's when I pull away. That's when I isolate. And it's not because it's just because I have to. I don't know. I guess I don't really know. I just want to be away from everyone. I
Now, is
just
that
don't want to.
even when you were in the relationship, you would pull
No,
away?
no. So
Only when you're
no.
out of the relationship, you would pull away?
So yeah, pretty much the last 4 years, I'll isolate myself. So like you brought up, I lived in the middle of the woods. So I lived up in Fremont, Michigan, and I had 5 acres deep in the forest. And I had a little tiny camper I started with. Then I got a 40-foot motorhome. It was really, really nice, super duper nice. And then I started building, and I had like a garage out there, and I had a cabin out there, and I had a gazebo out there and lots of people from church were building and helping me build it. I was trying to build a ministry out there and in the woods, like a veteran ministry, like a retreat. People would come out sort of similarly to a men's retreat that I went to. And it didn't work out, but I isolated myself. I stayed in the woods. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go out. I went to church and I went to men's group. I didn't completely isolate, but yeah,
Right.
I didn't really partake in society. I just shut myself off and I just stayed in the middle of the woods. And then maybe, wow, ding, 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 maybe a little bit of self-actualization going on right now. Maybe a little bit of God speaking to me and giving me
Mm-hmm.
revelation. Maybe God needed to get me out of that situation and start light a fire under my butt. And maybe that's why that girl kind of catfished me a little bit. I don't know, to pull
Oh,
me out
could
of that.
be.
Because would I ever have traveled the world without that motivation? Probably not. Yeah, I've always wanted to leave and travel the world, but I didn't know how it worked. And so um again, shameless plug for my destination dopamine. The one thing that I learned for 2 years during the COVID was how to travel the world. So everybody wants to travel the world, right? Who doesn't want to travel the world and go see new things? But everybody thinks that this financial part of it is what blocks them. And in reality, that's not it at all. Because what I did is I studied for 2 years to how to travel the world on a budget of XYZ. I get
I saw
thirty
your
six hundred bucks a
prices
month.
were pretty good. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. Well,
because
but you also have to understand, right, that
current
we're this
currency.
this is no, you need to understand that this is not for the middle class, this is for everyone. So generally lots of travel is geared towards the middle class and above, right? And it's always like cruises, or you go for a couple weeks, you're staying at a hotel or whatever. This is not what that looks like. So I'm just going to warn you guys now. If you go to my page and you're looking to travel,
Do I need a backpack?
yeah,
Are
yeah.
we backpacking?
We are backpacking. We are staying in hostels. We are staying in
Oh, you
hostels.
know what? When I was in China, we stayed in a hostel. It wasn't that bad, but I went to New
No, they're not.
York.
Some of them are bad.
Oh, the horrible one in
Yeah, I've
New
stayed
York.
in
It was
some.
$165.
No,
And
these are like
that,
20 bucks a night.
yeah, in China, super cheap. If you ever go to China, it's so cheap.
Please don't go to China. I'm begging all
Oh,
of you right now, don't go to China because
I
I
want to see
have a
my
friend.
friend.
Well, I have a friend who did the TEFL. We talked about you did the TEFL.
Yeah,
I'm doing the TEFL, and hopefully this weekend, or not this week, next weekend, if we get together, you can help me with some of that.
I'll
We can
help
go
you.
over some of it.
I'm
But
certified, or I have my T-cell
yeah,
certificate.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who I met in Greece, and he's from Scotland, and he just taught for 4 years in China. This was just like 6 months ago, and he told me, and this is the reason why I say I'm not saying there's anything wrong with China, you guys. I would love to visit. I would love to visit the Great Wall of China. We had to read a book in the military, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. He's like the writer of war. Like Chinese Chinese culture is amazing. However, we are in such a political climate right
Yeah.
now that this guy is from Scotland, okay? Scotland. He's got the old Scottish accent, whatever. And he said they did not like him at all. He was there for 4 years, taught for 4 years. He said they did not like him at all. And he said, I'm going to tell you right now, they hate you even more. He said, if I were you, I would not go over there.
Oh, when
Because
I was treated like a princess and a
okay,
celebrity.
when was this?
Okay, before COVID.
No,
Five
you don't
years
want
ago.
to.
5 years ago.
Right, right. We're on edge right now. We're almost about to go to war. They're like China's
Yeah.
provoking America. You don't want to go there. There's a whole bunch of people that are detained right now that are locked up for stupid stuff. I don't recommend it. And I also say, as we're on the travel thing, this is why I'm putting together this travel agency and this group. I am going to personally, myself and some other friends, some other Marines, are going to be taking people around and making sure you're safe, because I know what to look out for. I know because I've been doing this. And so
Right.
that's the thing. And I also know
That
where
is
not to
reassuring.
take you. Where not to take you. Like, well, don't go here. It's not a great idea. And so but yeah. So, anyways, I don't know where we were going with that. I forgot about the TEFL thing. We were talking about that and
Mental
why.
illness and teaching English as a second language to
Yeah,
get
that's
this
really.
to get the word out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean
that
that's
is one
ultimately
thing.
what it's about.
Um, when people do dive into their faith, to be cautious on who you get your information from, because there's
Hmm.
great information and there's also misinformation. So we also have to do our own due diligence on what feels right. Does that make sense? Are we understanding it? you know
Yeah, and that's very important. So he's right about that. I am very selective about who I listen to when it comes to my faith. I read my Bible and I try to get most of my information from there, from my relationship with God, because the Word is the living Word. You will hear God's voice. You're not going to hear God's voice like this, Josh, do this. That's not how it works. God comes to us in our thoughts. And I just said, didn't I just give you a shining example of what that was like when I told you
right.
I isolated in the middle of the woods and I never thought of this? And that girl popped in my mind, and about how even
That's
though
why.
even though that was a bad situation, what does God do? He takes bad situations and makes good ones. So he maybe knew that this was going to happen. So he used it in a way to pull me out of the isolation to get me to travel the world. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, because
Now it came back.
we, we figured it out.
Yeah.
But there, and I've said that too many different times in different videos, is sometimes we are so angry at God. Like, why did you let that happen? And it was actually for a blessing.
Yes.
I gave an example of I lent a friend like $860 or something, and she promised she'd pay me back. I said, I have to have this or they're going to foreclose on my house. This is back in 2008. I said, I don't have it to give you, but if you can get it back to me. So she promised. And of course, her,
She never paid.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I lost my house. And it was 3 days later that a tornado came through and a big, huge tree crashed into my roof and right where I was sleeping. And it's kind of like, well, I'd rather
So
be alive than little
you know
things like
what's
that.
happening,
Hmm.
Cynthia? Do you know what's happening? I said this before we started recording live. I said this when we got off of you went to go get an aspirin or a Motrin, an
Ibuprofen.
ibuprofen, and I went to go pee. And as I'm walking out to go pee, I said, God's got me building an army. That's what's happening right now. I'm seeing people around me, tons of people around me. I can see the hand of God on you. Like I see what you just said. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I've done so much stuff too. I'm full of knowledge. We would always say I'm full of useless knowledge. I have tremendous amounts of knowledge about a lot of things. But what I see is I feel like God's building up an army, because what you just said right there was a clear indicator, a very clear indicator that God's hand is in your life, like on your life, and that you thought it was this travesty, and really the travesty would have been if you would have stayed, you wouldn't be here right
And
now.
this one kind of touches like real hard. I was supposed to get married, and I was living, with my ex, and our daughter was 1.5, 2 years old. And we would her and I would take naps together. And he had built this beautiful pond, kind of like this, but no waterfall, but this beautiful pond had
Yeah.
he had 8 acres. So it's this huge pond back there. And we had the screened in porch. And my daughter had we had a latch way up top. Okay. It was like 5 feet up. And she's little toddler. And she started pulling the wicker furniture over and unlatching. So we ended up breaking up. And I go back to Detroit. But is that devastation that our relationship was over, or could it have been that one time I was sleeping and she unlatched it? So I can sit here, be pissed off about the relationship, but
You guys are going to
you
be
never
mad at
know.
me.
You never know, but maybe it was to save her life. And it's not
Yeah.
that I was being a bad mom. I just didn't realize that she was doing that and thinking I'm taking precautions. And, when you're sleeping, she's right next to you,
So you guys are going to be mad at me because I have the same story, only my little 3-year-old son, we were taking a nap and he woke up and he got out of the house in his diaper and he left and went down the road and he was gone. Now, luckily we lived in a middle-class neighborhood and the police station was right down the road, and so they found him. Like, they saw him out in the road and they came and got him and brought him back to the house. My heart, I was like devastated for so
yeah,
long because I wasn't being a bad parent. We were taking a nap together, and maybe that is being a bad. Maybe you shouldn't take a nap when I don't know, but we were taking a nap together, and he woke up and took off.
yeah,
And he knew how to unlock the door. He's 3 years old, two I think at the time, and he knew how to unlock the deadbolt. He knew how to unlock everything. And so it was a scare beyond scare. It's so weird. I have the same story, only my son got out, but luckily they brought him
right.
back, and I was like, oh my gosh, like. And so we made sure we like baby proofed everything
Yeah.
hardcore, but similar story. Like, it's a scary situation,
And
but
you never
but
know. Like, and I'd rather not relive it to find out, like,
yeah,
oh yeah, it was. So she, I see she drowned.
yeah,
Okay, now I understand. You know,
absolutely. And
sometimes it's better not to know and just trusting. And that's where the trust in God is. There was
mm,
a reason. I don't know. I don't want you to prove it to me that, yeah, my kid's dead now. So thank you for proving it. No, I'd rather just trust. She's alive.
right.
I'm just saying in that scenario.
So that scenario, I would say your first scenario is more the God aspect of it. The second scenario, I could see where you're coming from, but it's a little harder to see the hand of God in that. It's very
Mm,
easy to see the hand of God in the very first one, because in the first one, in your mind, this was devastating to you. I mean, you were done. You lost your house completely. That's it. That's your whole world come crashing down. Here's a situation where you could have. We don't live in the what
I
ifs.
would have
I don't
rather
live in what
lost
if.
the house than the relationship, though.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I would rather lose a relation. Oh yeah, I mean, I guess in a sense, I see what you're saying. I guess I'm talking about the aspect of your child, or the child, right? That's what I'm
Right.
talking about. Versus actually, yes, it would be worse to lose that situation right there, you know. But I think you're living in what if land. What
Yeah.
if that would have happened? I don't live in what if land. I never lived there.
Okay.
I won't live there. So for me,
I get what you're saying. The house,
I
you could
won't see it.
definitely see the
The
answer.
house, you see the hand of God, because at that moment you thought, this is devastation. This is the end of my world. My world is over. And 3 days later, God said, no, your world has just begun. You aren't
Right.
seeing what I'm seeing. And you saw it then. You were like,
Yeah.
right, versus you're living in what if land. Oh, what if she got out and died? Yeah, well,
Right.
we don't play what ifs. I don't play
Good
that game.
point. Good point.
I used to say that to my ex-wife. I used to get really angry because she would always say, what if this? And I would get so mad and say, I
So
don't
Josh is
live.
mad at me right now.
No, I'm not. No, 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 no,
Trigger
no, 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 no.
warning.
No, no, no. I'm not mad. But I don't live in that land of what ifs. I know a lot of females do. Actually, a lot of people do, but females especially live in that. They're always constantly analyzing, like, what if this happens? What if we lose this? You know, what if,
Can I tell you something funny? I had to go through psychological
yeah,
evaluations for my custody battle. And he asked me about, my personality, this, that, and I said, well, I'm uh I overanalyze things. And he's like, how so? And I just started laughing. I'm like, you want me to analyze how I analyze things too much? And I just thought it was too funny.
yeah, how so? Could you analyze that for me really
I'm
quick?
like, I'm not
Let me
going
know.
there. I'm not going there.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I won't live in that what if land, because you'll drive yourself insane, right? It's
And
like,
that's
what
true.
do they say? We don't. So there's a book that I read called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but at the end of the day, it's the power of now, and that's where we don't live in the what if land. You have the past, you have the present, or you have the past, the future, and then the present.
A
We need
lot
to
of
live in the
us
present,
a lot of us get
right?
stuck in what if is he going to come back, or what if I lose weight, or what if I get my degree, or what if this, that, what if I move closer, all those kind of things. And it's like you're missing out on life.
So
Whatever's meant
hopefully,
to be will. And when
yeah.
you live in the scarcity mindset too, that would be like me, like really, Josh, are you gonna are we going to get married? When can we do it?
Yeah,
And it like pushes people away, that we don't realize it. It's like, you just be relaxed, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. It,
right. So for me, I'm hoping that what I was saying, the point that I was driving is, and you just said it, and so now let's lay it out for them. Um, a lot of your emotions and a lot of your thoughts and your depression and your anxiety is because you live in what if land. So
excellent.
what I'm trying to get across to you guys is, if you stop living in the future and stop living in the past you can't change, the future hasn't happened, so you don't know. And that's the whole idea and the concept of this book of Power of Now. If you live in the present moment and you see what's going on around you and observe the beauty of life and everything that's happening now, take it in now and stop worrying about what's going to happen or what did happen, you will lose so much of that depression and
Right.
anxiety and all these bad thoughts. And that's the whole concept. So you guys, I have been working on myself. Whether I just had a fall and I was going crazy for the last year, it's because somebody triggered me. That's why. It's because somebody sent me on a crazy chase. And that's,
You allowed
which,
yourself to get triggered.
yes, which we can't. So we haven't even talked about that yet, you guys. We haven't even gone down that road of this girl who catfished me and all of this. We haven't even talked anything about that yet. And
This
so
is an ongoing series, so we'll
there
continue
there
on.
is there is, I mean, you can only say I allowed myself so much, because you don't allow yourself to be destroyed by a narcissist. This is what they do. So I
Right.
didn't allow myself. I allowed myself to ignore the red flags, but I won't take responsibility for her
Right.
behavior.
Right.
And
For the
that's
abuse.
different. So we can say I allowed myself to be abused. I didn't, because I was being manipulated and lied to. And
I
so
thought you were talking during a conversation, though.
what do
I
you mean?
thought, well, I thought you were saying that during like a conversation you got triggered.
Oh, no, 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 no.
So,
I'm talking about the whole situation, kind of where I
okay,
got
that's
catfished. And
different.
I don't
Okay.
I don't think they understand what I mean by that. But anyways, but what I'm saying is this. We'll get to that story later another time, but right now what I'm saying is, I've spent the last 4 years working on myself, reading books, seeking therapy. I was in another program here. I read my Bible daily on a consistent basis. I am seeking healing regardless of wherever. So there's a lot of information that I have that's coming from a lot of this stuff, and also a lot of it's coming from experiences in the past, and then self-actualization or self-realization, or being able to reflect back and look at a behavior and match up the thought process and match up, the what's the answer, how can we fix this, or how can we get through this. And so I do have a lot of that experience today, but I will say this, that was a very impactful thing. So there's been a very couple books that have been so impactful in my life. The Bible obviously is the main one,
Right.
but That power of now, Eckhart Tolle, living in the now, like living in the now. Stop. You will eliminate so much worry out of your life. You will, you know. And then another thing for me, and I think I said this in another. I'm reading a book right now. I'm about to be finished. I'm on the last chapter, and it's called Crushing by T.D. Jakes, and it is probably one of the most fantastic books I've ever read because it's allowed me to understand why I'm being crushed and the process of what's about to happen. And like I said before, majority of every single huge player in the Bible was crushed, every one of them. And it goes by the analogy or the parable of the grapes. So you have the vine dresser, i.e. God, and then you have the grapes, i.e. us, and then
Right.
we're crushed, right? And you think you take this grape, right? I had some, I just ate them. Sorry,
Yeah, that
I would
tasted
get
like onions.
the taste of like onions. I would smash the grape, and you think, man, you just took this beautiful, nice grape and you smashed it. But at the end of the day, when you smash it, you don't. So the grape's limited perspective, right? And this is quoting from T.D. Jakes' book. This is not me, but the grape's limited perspective doesn't understand that when you crush it, it's going to become this beautiful, fantastic, amazing, delicious wine. And the grape can't see that in its perspective. All it sees is it's a grape and it gets squished. It doesn't know that it's about to go through a transformation
Right.
into this fine wine. And so that's the whole concept of the book.
And
But
that's
it
when
gives you,
others can enjoy it as well. Well, to see
there you
to
go.
the
You
full
got it at
flavor.
the very end. You at the very end, others then get to enjoy what the vine dresser did, right? And so obviously not everybody in the world goes through this transformation process. Not everybody gets crushed, and some get crushed worse than others. I just happen to be one of those people that got really, really crushed. But if you go back and connect it with the Bible, and I said this once before, God gives very special care and attention to widows and to orphans. And I'm an orphan, 100%. I have the orphan spirit. I am the orphan. And so, but I could give you stories of my life where I identify with the prodigal son or Job or Hosea. If you don't know the book of Hosea, you should check it out. That's my ex-wife and I. Or Jonah. I ran from this calling for a really long time. Like Job, how
Job's a
everything was
big one.
taken from me and I was destroyed. And now it's coming back double what was taken in the first. Like I can identify with every single one of these biblical characters, and that is the point of the living word and being able to identify and understand it. And so, but when you do go through such a crushing like that, that's when you're going to be elevated to something. And I want to be very clear about something. This is not Josh. This isn't, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. Great. I have gifts. And I just said finally the other day, I declared it last night on a video. I'm very powerful and I know it. I'm very articulate. I know it. I'm very intelligent. I know it. I know I have the ability to change a room. I know how I can change the climate in an entire group. I
Right.
get that. Why do I have that? Because God's about to elevate me. I've had it ever since I was a little kid. I've used it when I was in my teenage years for bad. I've manipulated. I've done things that I shouldn't have done. But I am also the guy that sees you reap what you sow. A minute later, you do something stupid, and the next day you're getting back what you did, and that's why. And so now I'm very aware that I'm in a crushing process, but I'm actually at the end of the process. I'm in the refinement process right now, and I'm beginning to come out of it. And now I'm starting to age and become like that fine wine for others to enjoy. And this is what's happening. And so, like I said to you the other day, today earlier, we were talking about this separately before we started recording. This guy in one of the groups who's a elder in a church, ordained minister. I was ministering to him and his wife and everything when he first got here. And he said to me the other day in group, he says, Josh, you're going to be a millionaire. And I'm like, because a lot of people still think in terms of worldly money, all this
Right.
stuff.
And a lot of people put their self-worth into it. You see people committing suicide if they don't make enough money, which is really
But
sad.
I got money. Here's the beauty of it, right? I'm not rich, you guys. I had literally $400 or $500 in my bank account, and a whole bunch of stuff just got taken out that I didn't realize that I had, and I have like $70 left. And I'm like, oh crap! So I'm just telling you this because I live paycheck to paycheck. I get $3,600 a month, enough for one person to live way beyond their means. And let me just tell you something: I don't need to be rich. I have money. I'm very rich. I'm very blessed. And so I want to say this, all of that excess that I get, sure, I'll have a nice house. I'm sure I'll have a car, a nice car. I already have a nice car, whatever. But what I'll have is the ability to help so many more people. And that is the difference. And so I am being crushed and I am being refined. And I did understand what he was saying because he sees something in me. He sees value, right? Remember what I told you about the comment about the value? Did I tell you that about the guy? About I was in therapy. I was telling somebody else
Yes,
this, but
yes, you did.
I
Right,
was
right.
in
But we talked
therapy.
like an hour before we logged in
Yeah.
today. Um,
So I was in therapy and then telling about my codependency, about how I don't have any value. I don't see value in myself and yada, yada, yada. And then 5 minutes later, I get this message from this guy who I sold a computer to in London, and he has a master's in computer science, and we stayed friends and we connected, and he's messaged me like this professional letter calling me Mr. Schwartz and all this. Basically, he wants to work for the travel company, and I called him. I'm like, bro, why are you calling me Mr. Schwartz? Like, bro, no,
why is it
please.
so formal?
Yeah. You just call me Joshua. You know my name. Anyways, so, but I was like, I can't pay you anything right now. I'm just starting this business. And he says to me, no, that's okay. I have freedom right now. And basically he said, I see the value in what you're doing. I see the value. And it interprets to I see the value in you. And so the irony of 5 minutes before I was in this codependency meeting saying to
Right.
these people like, hey, I don't value myself. I give everything away. People take advantage of me because they know I'll do this. And I struggle at this. And they're like, well, you need to start valuing yourself more. You need to put numbers on things you do and blah, blah, blah. 5 minutes later, I get a call or, a message, and I call this guy and he's telling me how he sees the value in me and he's ready to sow into me. And so it's really crazy. And that's another God moment. So, but the idea is it's the same as, this guy telling me, oh, I can see you're going to be a millionaire. The point is, people are sowing into me, and in turn, yes, it's going to create a lot of fruit. There's going to be so much fruit. There's going to be blessings. There's going to be finances. There's going to be all this stuff. But only in turn, this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people in this ministry, is when they start to seek the external the external, not validation, but the external material things in this world, that think, oh, now I'm a millionaire. Now I can go buy a Ferrari. I don't care about a Ferrari. Do I want a nice $50,000 truck? Yeah, I do. Why? I want it to be utilitarian. I need a four-wheel drive. I need things that I need to do, and I want it to last a while. Do
Right.
I need a 90,000, $100 million car? No, I don't give a shit about any of that. I don't care. Cool. Have fun with your little cars. Do I need a $1 million mansion? No, I don't. Do I need a nice house with like 2 or 3 bedrooms? Yeah, because I have to have an office. I've got to be able to do this, but I've got to
Right.
have a ministry, and I've got to be able to travel, and I've got to have safety and security. So at the end of the day, yes, of course, I'll have money and I'll live nice, but I won't. You'll see, it'll be crazy. But
Right.
anyways, that's the point. Like and we talked about that. I don't care so much about money because my mom was given up for adoption, adopted by rich people, and money was the motivating factor of our world. And my mom sued my grandma because my mom was left a couple $1 million actually. So the people that adopted her were filthy rich, and they owned a company here in Michigan called McClure Oil. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Used to
Yes.
be some gas stations. So that was my family, and so they had lots and lots of money. And so when the great grandparents died, they left my mom stocks and bonds of about $3 million, equally the same to my her brother, my uncle Scott, but he's passed now. And what happened was is my grandma, the ones that adopted them, my mom and this other, my uncle Scott, they split up because she was a hardcore alcoholic and my grandpa was the judge. So they split up. So she got her alimony and whatever, and it was his family that was rich. And
Oh,
so when she went away, so she was getting these dividend checks, but they're ginormous dividend checks, because of the stocks and the years and the oil company and the family. And so she was supposed to turn it over to my mom when my mom turned 18 or 20 or 25 or something. I don't know, 21. I don't know it was like 21 or 25
probably
or something. I
21
don't
or
know.
something, 25. Yeah.
And so what happened is she kept the dividend checks and forged them for years.
Forged
And
them. Ooh.
forged them for years and years and years. And well, she married a guy that was 10 years or 12 years younger than her. And he was just with her for her money. And it was really my mom. And he actually, I'm pretty sure he killed her. I'm pretty sure he poisoned her and killed her. And because I had a really close relationship with my grandma, and she was fine for a while. He had mortgaged the house 3 times. He owed millions and millions of dollars. He had screwed a ton of people over. And so they were after him. A lot of people were after him.
Right.
And so ironically, my grandma was fine. And then all of a sudden she got super sick. And like in a matter of like 2 days, she was dead. It was insane. Like I just saw her a couple months ago. She was fine. And then they're like, oh, I was 16. They're like, oh, you need to go see your grandma. She's dying. I'm like, what? Wait, huh? Excuse me? So then I
Okay.
go
Yeah.
there in a hospital. When I get to the hospital, she's completely, oh, she has liver failure. She's completely jaundiced. And she can't talk. I just saw her a couple months ago. She was just talking. We're fine. And now she's just, doing this number.
Oh.
And then while we're there, my grandpa's, well, this dude, Sandy's girlfriend calls while we're there, calls the hospital. And we heard. And he's like, oh, I got to go. They're here, blah, blah, blah. And then when my grandma died, he immediately had her cremated because she died he pulled the plug the next day.
Oh.
Immediately had her cremated. All right. And then when they had the wake, right? Because they lived in Bloomfield Hills. So when they had the wake, it
That's
was
about where I grew up area.
So Kirk in the Hill Church? Kirk in the Hills, it's like looks like a castle. That was the church they got married. That was the where her little in the back of it, there's like a, I don't know, mausoleum or whatever. But at the in the back of there, or when they had the wake there, we showed up, me, my mom. There was so many like famous people, like Monty Clark, the old football coach of the Lions. There was a lot of famous people there. And so when we showed up, me and my mom were the only ones crying. And his girlfriend showed up with my grandma's jewelry on.
Oh.
So after that, some things happened. Actually, I can talk about it now because it's been much years. After that, I was 18 years old. I called his house, right? Because there's a statute of limitations and it's all over and done with. I called his house and then I went up and robbed his house. I kicked the door and I had a broken leg and I robbed his house and took a bunch of stupid shit. And then he called me and he's like, he had the police there and he called me and he's like, were you up here? Because I hadn't talked to him in years. And I called him and leave a message on his voicemail to let him know what I'm about to do. I mean, I didn't let him know, but
Right.
I'll let him know. and so he says, were you up here anytime? Oh no, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? Well, why did you call me? I haven't talked to you in a long. We haven't. Oh, I just turned 18 and my mom told me that, my grandpa, you got my dad a job, and blah, 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 blah. And what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? So he knew I did it. I knew he knew I did it. And my mom was like, and she was like, why didn't you take this? I was like, shut up. Because my mom knew. She was all pissed off at me about it. But then she's like, would joke about it. Why didn't you take my christening dress? Why didn't you take these little, because I took like a laptop and stupid shit, a pistol, just shit that had no value to it. And they were super rich. And there's like these two little dog statue things that were like $10,000.
If it's from Bloomfield Hills, I know what dog statues you're talking about.
Yeah. So she's like, why don't you take? And I'm just like, shut up, mom. Like, it wasn't about that. It was me attacking him because of what he did. I was so, and that's another component of my trauma. I have no one in my life. I have no aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, cousins, nobody, no one. And so my relationship with my grandmother was like this. She took me every summer, and I got to live the rich life, got to go on yachts and do all this fancy stuff and go to country clubs when I was, 6 to like 10 or 15 or something like that. And so I got to do all the fancy stuff. This is another reason why God has me where he has me. You understand? I've been poor, homeless, living on the street, smoking crack, and I've been with the best of them in yacht clubs, eating filet mignon and prime rib. And so but I've been all over the board everywhere. So, but yeah, it was a super crazy, and I don't know why we segued into that aspect, but I guess it's another part of my life. But yeah, it was really crazy, and that happened back in like 1993. So good luck, police. Statute of limitations, 7 years.
So here you can see that borderlines can be truthful after the statute of limitation.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I am very truthful. I mean, you can ask me anything, and that's the thing.
Well, as far as
that's the funny component of it is I'm very, very truthful. So,
do you ever tell half truths?
Sometimes.
Yeah, and we also. I mean, I'm not.
But all
holier than
humans, I
thou,
think,
because
do
there's
that.
things I've done wrong. What?
I say all humans do that.
Yeah, I was
But very,
just pointing that out.
very much so. I'm very truthful because I don't think you're going to find too many people that are going to come on here and talk about their crack use or talk about. I mean, there's no statute of limitation on that. Who do you find that's going to come on and talk about sleeping with prostitutes? I don't think you're going to find too many people that will do that. Like, and it doesn't really bother me. That's the thing. I'm not really embarrassed about it. I'm not
Are
really
you
upset
proud of
about
it
it.
in a little way?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Actually, I felt tremendous amounts of guilt and shame after I did this. Tremendous amounts. That's the thing. So I think this is where the disconnect is, I think, between psychology and spirituality, right? Psychologists don't understand spirituality or God. Most of them don't. Most of them are scientific thinking,
Right.
the brain thinking, and so they don't see. So they love to label things, and this is what they don't do in most other countries: is label things.
Right.
They don't sit there and give out pills and say all this stuff and blah blah blah. And so, because I come off and I'm diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, we automatically have this stigma of what this really means. But there is no boundary of the brain. There is no, this is set the way it is. And I laugh when people think that that's what it is. It's ever evolving, it's constantly changing.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, like, maybe I do have borderline because I fit a lot of those personality traits, right? This is what I mean. Psychologist said I got it, so I must have it, right? That's what it is. They say I'm borderline, but then I look at their DSM, right? The Diagnostical Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, 5, right? That's where we're
Right.
at right
We're in
now,
5.
5. Actually, I think we just did a revision, really. But
I
at the
have
end
it
of the
right
day,
here in my stack. Yeah, it's a revised one.
yeah. So again, just like anyone else, I can pick up a book and read, and I have. And so if I look at if I were to grab some of the paperwork I have right now and I look at PTSD, for example, right? PTSD fits all of this criteria. I 100% fit all of the criteria for
Right.
PTSD. But how come none of these psychologists will tell me, oh yeah, you have PTSD? Oh, well, it's probably something else. It's probably, oh, really? Because I know myself. I'm very good at self-reflection. I'm very good at picking out, the things that are ailing me, and I'm fitting this criteria, not because I want PTSD, because I think it's a cool diagnosis, probably because I have nightmares, I can't sleep, I have anxiety that I never had before. I mean, there's a plethora of things that I fit the criteria, but they refuse to say, yeah, you got PTSD. Oh, okay. Well, I've never been diagnosed, or I've never had a PCT, right? An assessment test. And I've asked them, well, give me an assessment test. Let's go down that
Right.
road. No, hopefully I'll get it when I go here. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't
And
know.
when
So
they treat it subjectively, it's up to them if they believe how depressed you are. It's like whatever. Because I know I had a complete break. A lady fell on my foot and the bone right in here completely separated. And I wasn't crying. I was in so much pain, but I'm like, I think I broke my foot. And she's like, no, because I was talking to my buddy girl, just my friend.
no, your foot's
And
not broken. Nah,
yeah, she wouldn't believe me. And I'm like, no. And she's like, you wouldn't be carrying on a conversation and laughing. And I'm like, no, it
right.
really hurts. But it was crushed. I had to get 2 pins put in. It was completely separated. And they had to and it's like, I know I hurt. I've had so
So
many,
what
it's like I've had a lot of broken bones. And so it's kind of like you get used to it in a
you knew,
sense.
well, but you knew, right? You knew deep inside, you knew I have a broken bone. I've had a broken bone before. So this is what I was trying to get you to understand. Where when I saw your reaction to, oh, you sure you don't lie, is don't think that concrete all borderlines lie, because that is just setting yourself in a box, and humans love
Well,
boxes.
everybody
I think
lies. Everybody lies.
everybody lies, right, right. So to say that this is because at the end of the day, I would not come on here and do this. I would not say the things that I say. I can exhibit some of the traits of borderline, but I could also exhibit some of the traits. A lot of the traits of borderline are the same as psychopathy and sociopathy and narcissism, right? So why don't they label me as a narcissist? Why don't they label me as a psychopath? You can never, this is the problem. We put too many labels on things. I exhibit these symptoms. I do not deny. I do
Right.
not deny. I exhibit these symptoms. but at the end of the day, just because I exhibit these set of particular symptoms doesn't mean that I'm a pathological liar. Doesn't
And
mean that I want to go murder somebody. There are psychopaths out there that don't murder anybody. They spend their entire life becoming
Right.
doctors. Actually, you wouldn't believe how many of your doctors and
I
lawyers
want to
and
do something.
judges, and
Yes.
there are psychopaths among us. Actually, I think there's a book. Let me look it up real quick, but I think it's called Psychopaths Among Us. Let me look it up, but I think there's a book, because you would be so surprised to find out the amount of people around you that lack huge amounts of empathy. So I just, this is why I'm very against labeling and
Because it can be
um,
fluid too. Like you might not be depressed now, but and you know,
it is, oh, it's a documentary. I watched the documentary. So here it is. And there's a book too. Well, there's a documentary called The Psychopath Next Door, and then there's Psychopaths Among Us. And then there's the book called Psychopaths. Hold on, let me see. It's called where I just had it. Oh, Without Conscience, The Disturbing World of Psychopaths Among Us. So I've read a lot of this information in literature. That's the thing. I've done a lot of research. So people say don't self-diagnose yourself. Why not? What's the difference if I read all this information and go diagnose someone else? Tell me what the difference is. I get that you have clinicals. I get that as a doctor, you have these trials and you're going through working with people and you're seeing this more and you're looking at it more. But I hate, that's the one thing I really despise about this world is when somebody gets into a position, they automatically think they're some subject matter expert and that they know better than anybody else, and don't talk to me about it. And you could never know what I know. And
right.
I just
See,
laugh.
I agree, but like technically you gotta uh because
Go through the work.
because because I could sit here and read and understand or interview or do all this stuff, but unless I have that little paper
Certificate.
and
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
thing
yeah.
is they won't allow me to sit for the test, pass the test. Let's say I get 100%, somebody else that went to university got 91%, I would be denied. They would get their license because you don't go through certain little steps. And it doesn't, that's one thing that does frustrate me. I get why they do some of it for protection or
No,
whatever,
no, hold on, hold on,
insurance,
hold on.
liability.
So you're stuck right here, right? And I'm gonna bring you up here with the old one up there. So I don't give a shit what those people do. Because at the end of the day, I'll minister to people when a pastor who went to school for 20 years or 40 years have been doing this, and I'll have
Right,
more of a word to these people than that pastor. So don't get it in your brain, because this is you right here. You could be
right,
helping more people with your YouTube channel without your little piece of paper, because God is going to elevate you, because you do have the knowledge, you do have the information, you do have the experience. Do not set yourself in the secular world. That's what you're
right.
doing.
And that's why
And you're
I keep doing it, because I do,
stop. God
yeah,
can, I see it. But I see it in you. I see it in you. And then you tell me this story like that is a God, like you thought you were devastated. I love that story about you. You thought that you were gonna, oh my God, I lost my house. I can't believe, why would she ever do that? Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, you say, oh my gosh, I'm glad I lost my house.
yeah.
Woo, hallelujah. You know what I'm saying? And so God will elevate you regardless of your paper. I don't care
Okay.
about your paper.
All right.
So
So in
just don't
three
ever,
days, what do I get in 3 days?
well, I don't, it might take a little longer. It's taken me 44 years and I'm still
I
not there,
know,
but
right?
I'm getting
You know what
close. You know what I mean?
my dad used to always say, he's like, I always thought you'd have a hard life, but I honestly felt out of all, I don't know if I should say this if my brothers and sisters watch, but he's like, out of all four of them, I always thought you'd do the best, you'd come out on top. And I'm like, I'm waiting for that day. My brother's an attorney, my sister is a nurse practitioner, the other one is doing really well, construction management type stuff. But it's
The
like
worldview. You have a
knockdown
world
after knockdown.
secular. No, you have the worldly view, because this is what I said when I told you this when I walked out of here to go pee and you went to take your medicine. I said, God has me building an army. This is what's happening right now. What's going to happen is this: all of those achievements that your family and your brothers and sisters are going to go away. And the real achievement that's going to really matter is what you're about to do. And I don't know where you are, because we've never talked about where you personally are on your
Right.
spiritual walk, even if you're on a spiritual walk. But I'm telling you right now, if you would just look to that and really invest yourself in that and see, you will be elevated. So I'm the opposite of you. I was basically made out to be, I would never do anything with my life, and I'm not going to be
Right.
anything. And my sister is the golden child, and she, in all reality, my sister went to college and got an associate's, and she's like a boss of a fast food restaurant or of a restaurant. That's what she does. I'm about to have a higher degree than my mother, and and I'm still looked down upon. And it's really funny because at the end of the day, I no longer care what the world and people think about me. I know what God is going to do. And you know how I know? Not because I think I'm this great guy and all this stuff. And this is what I want your viewers to understand, and maybe you, because you guys haven't experienced me enough, because I keep talking about my gifts. And so these are delusions of grandeur. No, what maybe I should do is
But if
post in
they,
the comments,
if
but maybe I should post in your comments the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I was about to say thousands, I ain't there yet, of messages that I get from other people. Then I'll let you see what it has to say. So
right.
eventually, when you're being told something about yourself, you're a piece of shit. Eventually, you're going to think that, excuse my language, that you're a piece of crap. So if you're told over and over repeatedly, wow, Josh, I see some power in you. I see the light. I see you're going to be elevated. I see you have this ministry. When hundreds of people are telling you this, and then you're helping people, oh, I
Right.
believe it now. And so, again, you're thinking in the worldly view, oh, my sister's this, my brother's this. Cool. At the end of the day, look at the people that Jesus used. He didn't use these powerful leaders. He didn't use all these. He used all the broken, beat up, damaged, messed up people.
I
But
know. I
those are the
always said I
ones.
was a female Job. So
Well,
that's a
what I
bit.
say is I see it. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know you. And you were like, hey, you want to do this podcast? I'm like, sure. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, whatever. But the more that I get to hear your story, the more I see a lot of myself in there. And obviously, I don't know what you've talked about with your life and in your whole, I haven't watched your whole YouTube channel. But I mean, if I were to sit on the outside and all of the information I have now, and I'm the psychologist,
Oh,
and
we're
I look
running out of
at
time. Gotta go.
I look at your family and you, I would be like, okay, you suffer from mental health. Obviously, look at your family. Look at you, look at your family. You're not doing much. You're all over the board. You've done this, you've done that, you've been here, you did that, you did this, and they're in these jobs and they're doing all this. But at the end of the
Oh,
day, you're just
I've been pretty
go ahead.
successful in the things that I've done. Like, I have a different way of looking at it because I've created like I had a costume business where I sold worldwide. I traveled. Like I was kind of like in survival mode though, because like my daughter came first. My ex kept knocking me down. As soon as I would get a job, he'd screw it up. I was a college professor at that time teaching criminal law. And I was in court all the time, so I couldn't hold down the job, not because of mental illness, but because of what he
So
was doing. And
none of that's mental illness. Putting your wife or your husband first, your daughter, none of
no,
all
we
of what
weren't
you just
together.
said.
We weren't together. We weren't together. So I had regular jobs, but then I had to create jobs so I could create my own schedule and spend time with her.
Okay,
So
okay.
I had to get creative. I did a cheer company and then she got burnt out on
Nice.
cheer. So I added on karate so I could spend time with her, still work. And then it transitioned when I was making cheer costumes or dance, because I also taught kids in motion, which is like a creative dance. So then I added
Okay.
on costumes. So I've done like professional minor league cheer outfits. I sold worldwide. Some of my costumes have been in commercials and whatever.
Nice.
But I did that to survive. I'm not the type to get knocked down. And she came first. So after trying so hard with trying to get a job, then you also get into such a financial state that you're like, I don't have the money to wait two or three.
Yeah,
I can't wait two or
yeah.
3 weeks for my paycheck. Granted, I might pay more, but I'm living
I
day
know
by
what you're
day.
saying. I know what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
that's how that went. So going
So
all over the
imagine this.
place.
Imagine
Um,
this. Imagine if I had all these jobs and I did the similar stuff, and you could call it mental health if you want, but imagine I've had successful jobs as well. My last job, I was HR. I was making $62,000 a year. Had a nice job. I had a fat office. Imagine this. Imagine that the reason that none of these things stick is because you're still not in the job that you're supposed to be in yet.
And that's why I think, yeah, no, I know that.
And
I know that.
imagine now you're starting to explore. And so this was where I was going with the whole thing about your brothers and your sisters and all that. You know, I wasn't trying to like say, oh, look, you got all this mental, like that's not what I was saying at all. For my life, that's what it was. Do you know what I mean? My mental
Mhm.
health all over the place, different jobs, things like that. Maybe that wasn't for your life. However, what I'm saying, what I thought of all of that was I understand because I've had a lot of successful jobs. How come they never stuck? Is it because of my mental health? No. I went to college for 2 degree programs. How come I was never really, I'm super interested in technology and computers, but not business wasn't really, it was whatever, it was because I wanted another degree. What if the reason why nothing ever really stuck is because I'm not in the job that I'm supposed to be in yet? And I
Yeah.
know this now. I know I am already very close to the end of this. Well, to where I'm coming out, like we talked about the crushing, I'm coming out of that
Right.
situation and I'm starting to come into my calling and everyone's going to see it. It's going to happen really soon. People are, I
Uh,
don't know what really soon means. I don't know if it's like in a year, 5 years, whatever, but I know it's happening right now. I'm evolving into that. And so maybe that's the same
It
scenario.
is
Maybe you're getting
because, to
ready
be
to.
honest with you, as a little girl, I used to like create all these scenarios. I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and I thought it'd be so nice if we had this pool and we can
Yeah.
just kind of like small pool, and we could just like do our little therapy session in the pool. I don't
Yeah.
know. But that was like, I'm like planning, how can I do this? It's like a break free or breakthrough idea. No other psychiatrist does that.
Yeah.
So that was
That's
kind of like my dream, and then it was just so long, but it's so funny because my undergrad, I have 100 extra credits. So it's like I went, but I'm able, like my senior year, I took 31, then 32 credits back to back, and I self-tested out of 2 classes, self-studied, was it Spanish 2, within 2 weeks to test out of Spanish. So I have the intelligence, but I don't have the
oh
I don't have the
I never.
organizational skills.
Right.
I lack on that. And then not following my dream, trying to get things too quickly. Like
Yeah.
I'll just do
So
that.
so everything you just described is mental health. And everything you just described is what they say I have. It's just the same. And so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying anything about you, but I'm just saying that what you just described is exactly what they say to me, right? I have all the intelligence. I lack the organizational skills. I
Right.
lack the ability to
And part of that is
focus
just
it
taking
all
time for
on
yourself.
one. Well, I guess yeah, because for most of my life, I've always been trying to please other people, right? And mental health, and then I've always put, like, well, before when I was younger, I always put myself first, I guess, and that was probably because of a world trying to please my mother, right?
Right.
And like always trying to get that validation, and I never got that validation, and so because I didn't get that validation, I and that and I, I apologized to my ex-wife. I tried to make my amends. I think she still has resentment towards me. I said, look, I'm sorry for, and I'll say it publicly, Kelly, I'm sorry for the way I treated you and the way I acted, because I was selfish in that relationship. And that was with Andrew and Elizabeth, my oldest two. Um, and so I have worked on making my amends in all of that. But yes, after that, it was always putting other people first because, I'm seeking validation, seeking validation, seeking validation. With my ex-wife Kelly, we were just kids. I mean, I was like 18 when I met her. She was 15. I was 18, and then we stayed together till I was 26. So we were just children then. So yes, I wasn't very good. We were children having children. Now, as I was older, it was a different story. My ex-wife, I was always putting other people's
Were
needs
you married
first.
twice?
Yes, twice.
Okay.
And so um, with that being said, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I was always too busy trying to please everyone else. Well, I don't know if that's what you're saying. That's what I'm saying for myself. I was always too busy. And so I never gave myself the time. And one thing they tell you here in this program or any of these programs really is you need to make it a selfish program. You need to make it about yourself. And you really do if you want to get better. You don't want to come in here and try to help other people and fix other
Right.
people because number one, you can't help or fix anybody. You want to know, there'll be an argument. I'll argue with the psychologist and the therapist all day long. They'll say, you can't fix anybody. You can't help anybody. And I disagree. I say, you're absolutely wrong. And they say, oh, you can't, how, blah, blah. And I'm going to say, this is how you do it. Right. And I said this before in what I think one of our talks we had, and Mahatma Gandhi said this. you want to be the change, if you be the change in the world that you wish to see. How do you change people? By changing yourself. When you change yourself, everybody around you changes and the things
Right.
change around you. And so you are able to enact change by changing your situation and yourself. And so when
Right.
people say you can't change other people, I say, watch this. No, I'm just kidding.
Hmm.
I don't say, but challenge accepted. But
Yep.
I don't say that. I don't say that. I don't say that. But you know what I mean?
Out loud.
I say, yeah, there you go. I'm thinking it. I'm thinking it. But I say, okay, hey, I'm going to focus on myself, and I see it everywhere I go, everything I do, because I really put my all into it. I'm 110% kind of guy. I'm
Right.
in it all the time. If it were anything that really keeps me held back is I have a really hard time focusing. I have a hard time keeping my attention on something. I have really, really, really bad racing thoughts. And I do put other people's codependency. That's a big issue with mine. I have serious abandonment issues. So those are the things that are holding me back right now. And those are the things that I'm here for, to stay, to work on. I didn't come here because I was strung out on some drug and this and that. I came here because I needed to get off the weed and alcohol and normalize my brain a little bit and then deal with my mental health. And that's why I'm here. So I can do that. And now, because I can self-reflect, which I talked to so many psychologists and therapists my whole life, and they're like, man, you are so insightful. I can't believe you know so much about yourself. Like, you're so in tune with yourself. However, just because you're in tune with yourself and you know something is this way does not mean that you can just stop doing it or stop
Right.
whatever. That's the component of the mental health disorder. That's the disorder part. We need to take the disorder part and make some order out of it. So
Right.
number one, this is why God is so important, because that God makes order out of chaos, order out of disorder. That's what God does.
And
But number
sometimes the more
two,
you get knocked down, the fresher to rebuild the structure sturdier.
yeah, absolutely. And so the more and the more mental health that I get now, like, because God did give us mental health doctors and psychologists, and there are lots of people out there who love people who just want to help them. They have no motives. They're not like, oh, I'm going to get this fat paycheck. They don't care about that. They, just like me, see hurt people and want to help people. That's what it is. You've got two types of people. You got hurt people who hurt people. Then you got people who see people hurt or were hurt, and they want to help the hurt people. The
Right.
healers and the hurters. That's what you got. You get to choose which one you want to be. I want to be a healer. I know I'm going to be a healer. I am a healer. And so, then you've got people who, and I'm not saying that a hurt person who hurts people can't be a healer. They can be a healer. The problem is, and I think some of the stuff you talk about with narcissism is they refuse to, and that's that video, right, that triggered me that day, and I was like, ah,
Yeah.
ah. you
Now in
know
my little
it's
campfire. You
it
didn't
was
like that
because
video?
no, I liked the video. Of course, I liked the video. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with, it triggered a memory in my
Yeah.
mind about my ex-wife and self-reflection. And it triggered me in such a way where I remember I'm sitting in the courtroom taking the blame for everything she did as she's sitting in the hallway doing nothing. And I'm getting riled up now about it because it makes me freaking angry. I did
Right.
nothing. I will read you the transcripts. I will let you taught law. If you have any sort of brain and intellect in your mind, I'll give you access to my folder and you'll see. Of course, there's some bad stuff in there about me. But if you have any sort of brain, you'll see in a year span, they kept using the same BS that they had over and over. There was nothing new. I was doing everything, because you're not just going to get the transcripts. You're going to get the reports from Catholic Charities, that was the parent mentor. And you're going to get the psych eval from their psychologists who they had at Core 6 evaluate me. You're going to
Right.
get all of the reference letters from people from churches to social workers. You're going to get all that information. So if you have a brain, you'll see, yeah, okay, he did some bad shit, but overall, the grand scheme of things, take the God view, the 30,000-foot view, and look, yeah, this guy shouldn't have lost his kids. No way, no way. And maybe I should have for a period of time, because I needed to understand that I could not let this girl, because yes, maybe, she was molested, and maybe I needed to protect my kids because at the time I was still ignoring red flags or
Right.
whatever, and wanted to save my marriage and save the abandoned, I'm afraid to be abandoned. And maybe that's what they saw. That probably is what they saw. And they were like, okay, maybe you're not understanding that, but maybe they could have explained that to me instead of me
Right.
having to come here to this point and then saying, why,
Yeah, they could have
instead
given
of,
you a choice. Did they say if you keep her in the house? then will take your kids, or they
She
just,
didn't she didn't live in the house. I kicked her out. She didn't live in the house. I had the house. I had unsupervised visits in the very beginning. She had supervised visits. What happened? She came back she begged me and cried, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get help. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, 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 no. I swear." And then I let her back in the house. I lost my unsupervised visits. It went to supervised visits. And then guess what she did? Bye-bye. Boom, right back out on the street, doing drugs, sleeping with all kinds of men. She kept just destroying me. And I allowed it. But at the end of the day, I was such an idiot to allow this girl in England to do that to me. But I don't care what anybody says, because the girl here that did it to me was my wife. The one that I
right,
had 4 kids with, the one that was their mother, the one that I have seen a good part of her. I have a hard time believing deep down inside, from the God that I know, that people are just so far gone that they are. I have a really hard time believing that these personality disorders and that these narcissists and psychopaths can't be cured. I really have a hard time believing that. And I'm sorry to say that. And mainstream psychology and psychiatry will argue with me, say you're wrong. We've got the science, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care about your science,
right.
because the science that I believe in has power and miracles to heal anything. And so my thing is this: I did see glimpses, very, very small glimpses of my ex. And maybe she was just mimicking me. Maybe she was just modeling me. But I would see these glimpses of her where she really did love those kids. She really did take into, and maybe that's that selfish child love inside. Well, she had it. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Again, I'm not a psychologist, and I don't claim to be, but I just don't believe that people like this can't be healed. I believe that maybe scientifically, like they say about psychopathy, if they are lost a portion of their prefrontal cortex, I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Right.
But the narcissistic field and the sociopathic field, I don't know so much about that. And I think that those are not actual brain disorders. I think what they
There's actual,
are,
like the brain scans. There is,
I'll have to
le-
see that. Take a look at that. Yeah.
can I share my screen now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you got them, yeah, let me see, because
Um,
I'm curious as to know. I don't know so much. I know a lot about psychopathy because I researched that subject like tirelessly. But
okay. My big old mess
um
of hold
no, we
on.
can't. There you go.
Give
But
me
I've never seen
look,
like
there's me on a mud run.
nice. That looks
Hold
fun.
on. Sorry. Okay, so you can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so hold on.
Yeah, because I really, like I said, I have not really dug so much into those. I do know where
Dang it.
narcissist comes from. I know the term. I mean, I know who coined the term. I know why,
Yeah,
Nero and
that's
the whole.
this is a whole video. Dang it. Let's see. So let me just I'm not gonna, dang it. I hope I didn't just do that. I'm not gonna be
What's
able
that?
to upload this. I might. Um,
It's
yeah,
okay, because you know what? It's
it's my
recording
own.
live on
No, I
Facebook
know, but
right now. So
okay. So I can just find it real quick.
yeah.
Come on.
She's like, where's this at?
I know.
There it is. There you go. Yeah, yeah. So this is the psychopath though. Oh, so
Yeah,
the
this,
bottom one said no. So psychopathy, yes, I know absolutely. I've seen the brain scans of psychopaths. Yes, I already know that. So there's the prefrontal cortex. So this is what I was talking about to you earlier. So in the back is the amygdala, and the front right up. Well, you can't see my hand touching your screen, but the prefrontal cortex. So it's lit up more in someone like, well, I don't know. I've never had a brain scan. Maybe I am a psychopath now. It's lit up more in people, like us, versus somebody who's actually a psychopath. If you go back and look at the brain scan, it's not lit up so much. It's very, whatever. And so that's what I was talking about the percentage, right? They say like, say our prefrontal cortex is 15% of our brain and its activity is 15% in that region, and a psychopath might only be like 7% of that, half of that. So I agree with that. I'm just curious about narcissism and sociopath, You know what I mean? That's a different story. Those I think are environmental, where the psychopathy is a real deal brain problem. I
Right.
agree with that. Where I don't know, and I don't claim to know about. I know what narcissistic disorder is. I know what sociopathy is. I don't know the specifics. I know sociopathy. They did a
They
little bit
do
of
have a
diving into.
smaller amygdala.
Okay, so the amygdala is the emotional driven part of it. That's where you're driven by emotion, and
Right.
that's your survival part of your brain, your reptilian brain, they would say, so but I don't know about that. Like I said, I don't claim to. I've done most of the research I've done is on borderline because that's what I am,
Right.
and psychopathy because that's what I thought my ex-wife was. I didn't think she was a narcissist. I thought she was a psychopath. So like when we say narcissist, I mean we could coin that term because they all act similar.
Right.
um but I was more researching because I thought my wife was a psychopath. Because how could you? I wish I had this video. I wish I had the video, and I don't. And I know who has it, but I'm not going to reach out to get it. And I had a video, and I don't know if I said this to you, so I'm about to tell you the inside of a brain of someone like this, and it's a scary thing. All right, so we were sitting at the house one day, and my ex comes back and she's crying, and our kids are gone, and she's all, we're arguing and fighting, and she's all upset. And so I am paying for the phone for our phone bill. So she's been cheating on me a million times, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. So when she gets home, I take her phone, she sets it down, and I take it. Or no, we go in the bathroom and she set it on the ground. She's in the bathroom crying, and I put my foot on her phone and step on it. So she falls down to the ground, and I'm holding it up. I've just got my foot sitting on the phone, and she's like, "Give me my phone." And I'm like, "No, I'm not giving you your phone," because that was like a huge trigger for me, because she would constantly be calling men. We'd be sitting there, she'd be texting other men, calling other men, and I smashed a couple of her phones before, because I would be like, "Why? That's so disrespectful. Like, go, at least leave me or something." And so I'm standing, I got my foot on her phone, and she's laying on the ground and she's crying. And I'm just saying, "Give me my phone, give me my phone. You can have the kids. Just give me my phone." That's what she says to me. And
Wow.
I'm like, wow. And I had this all on video. I wish I still had the video. And so I'm standing over top of her, and she's like in between my legs, and I'm like, "Why are you doing this? Like, what is wrong with you?" And she's like, "That now I want to make something very clear here. Remember, at this time we're still married, and I'm her husband." Okay, so the next part of the video, this interview, I'm going to tell you, remember, I'm her husband. Don't forget that. So I'm standing over top of her. She's laying on the bathroom floor, and I got my foot on her phone. And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not giving you your phone." She wanted to go use drugs or whatever. So I was trying to keep her phone from her running off. And so she's crying. And that's when she says, "Just give me the phone and you can have the kids. I just want my phone and I want to leave." And so I'm like, "Why are you doing this? Like, we need to get our kids back. Like, what is wrong with you?" Da, 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 da. So then I still don't give her a phone. She gets up and she's in the bathroom. We're in the bathroom. I'm just leaning up against the counter, and she's, sitting. We had like a closet for our towels and stuff in there. We had a pretty big bathroom, had dual sinks and all that. And so I am sitting, like leaning against the counter, and she's sitting on the ground up against the closet, with her knees up kind of. And so she's crying, and we start talking about something, and I'm like, "Why are you doing this?" She goes on to tell me, she says, "I'm dating this guy, and he's so madly in love with me, madly, madly, madly in love with me. And I'm screwing all these other men, and he has no idea." And I'm like, "Don't forget about the part where I told you I'm her husband."
I was just going to
And
ask you,
I'm
were you
sitting there,
you weren't in an open relationship, right?
no,
I didn't
no,
think
we
so.
were married with 4 kids. No way. I was not made. Well, she was in an open
Right,
relationship. I
right.
wasn't in that. I was on the other end of the open relationship. I
So
didn't want to
she's
be in.
just out telling you like the whole
Well,
story,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
and
yeah.
what a dummy the other
So
guy was for having no clue.
well, this is why I was really adamant to you when you brought up about the lying portion of it, because I always drove truth into her head, like truth, 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 truth. This is what keeps the monster at bay, right? The truth will set you free. This is what the Bible says: truth, truth, truth. So what, like if somebody suggests or hints to the fact that I'm lying, I get upset about that, because no,
No,
I don't.
what you saw my brain thinking, and I was like reading my brain. Not that I didn't believe you.
but anyway, so to continue on with the story, she says to me, I'm screwing all these guys and so in love with me. And I said, I I'm just taken aback and I'm like,
Like,
oh, okay, okay. So I'm like, okay, okay. Well, why do you do this? And she looked at me and said, because I love it. It's fun. And I had
wow.
this all on video, all on video. And she didn't know I was
Wow.
filming. She didn't know I was filming though. That's why. And so I had
Gosh.
two videos. I had two videos. I had another video where I was talking about committing suicide. And she's like, oh, I'm waiting for you to do it. She's sitting in a recliner in her house. I just had that video and all of a sudden it disappeared out of my phone, which is really strange. I don't understand. But I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, I'm getting ready to kill myself. I want you to leave or whatever. She's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not. And we get to talk about something, and it's only like a 30-some-second clip. And she's like, she says to me, she said something. I said something, and she's like, I'm not. I don't know. She said, do it or whatever. I said, why would you do that? Why would you say that? She said, because I hate your guts. I said, well, if you hate my guts, what the hell are you doing sitting here right now? Leave the house. She said, no. I said, why? If you don't like me, why are you sitting here? She said, because I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch you die, motherfucker. So people don't know really what I've been through. People don't really know what's happened. People really can label and say whatever they want at any time they want, and I really don't care. The reason why God is elevating me is people don't know the amount of trauma that I've been through and the amount of resiliency that I have and the amount of grace that God's given. And I'm not saying I haven't been a naughty little boy, because I've been a naughty little boy. Most people have. At the end of the day, I openly and honestly admit to my mistakes. I
Right.
say when I'm wrong. I try not to talk about things that I don't know about. It took me until yesterday to publicly admit on video that I do have gifts, special gifts that most people don't have. And the psychologist would say he's got delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's so, yeah, okay, well, we'll see. You just sit back, you just pay attention and watch in the next 5 years where I'm at and what's happening. We'll
Yeah.
see. And so it's hard when you're told you have no value your whole life and you think that. And then it's so conflicting in your brain when hundreds and hundreds of people are telling you, oh man, you are so powerful. I see this gift.
Right.
I see. It's hard. It's a confliction inside of my mind. And so do I believe it? And then do I say it? Because if I say it, they're going to call me a psycho or a narcissist because I
Right.
think, and so
And
people
labels too
don't.
can cut people down sometimes too. Like, let's
Mm,
say, like with I give the example of Elvis Presley when he did his first audition, record tape, whatever, that they told him no, they didn't sign him, and then he went to
yeah.
somebody else, and he turned out to be, one of the biggest stars of all
Yeah,
time.
rock and roll. He started rock and roll. He's the
Exactly.
founder, the father of rock and roll. And that is something that, that's great that you kind of segued into that, because at the end of the day, don't let those labels, don't let those people, don't let any of that stuff stop you. You can go way beyond, like, and this is what I was telling with you about saying about all those jobs and this and that. The world looks at you because the world only has a worldly mind. You only see your perspective. You see no one else's perspective. At the end of the day, this is my world. I walk around this world and I only see my perspective, and it's
Right.
my world. Everybody I interact with interacts with my world. I don't interact with their world. I interact with my world.
And also
When you
others looking at me, they might look at all the different job changes and they don't know the true story of it, you know.
Right.
So,
And
um,
so if you can take that step back and look at this view up here, you can go way up
right.
here and see, now look at others' perspective and look down and see this person. That's what God sees. We don't see that. We have a very
Good
limited
point.
view.
Well, I'm
We have
6'1".
such, we, you got a higher view than me. but but we have a very limited view. And when you can start, and this is the blessing and the curse that God's given
Right.
me. God's given me the ability to see other perspectives and see other people's views. And this is why people are going to probably stone me for this and burn me at the stake. But I'm going to be honest. This is why I can understand a pedophile. I can understand a murderer. I can understand a narcissist, because these people have wounds that you know nothing about. They aren't born, I want to go sleep with a little kid, I want to go destroy this person. It doesn't work like that. If you think it works like that, man, you should probably do a little more research, because I'll tell you, these people aren't born like that. When they're little tiny babies and you're holding them in your arms and you're loving on them and they grow up, and you know, I have 6 kids. I'm a father and I'm a grandfather. And so at the end of the day, I can argue with parents because, and people say, oh, you got your kids taken away. Well, I still got my 2 older kids, and my other kids were taken away unjustly. And, you know, I just read something the other day to somebody where my ex-wife, all that stuff I just told you, said to me, or said to the course, look, Josh is an amazing father. He's stable financially. These are all daddy's kids, you know, blah, blah, blah. So when I can go back and look and think, yes, my kids exhibited, and you should look this up. I don't know if you know this same, but look it up. A lot of psychologists will tell you that kids are the biggest narcissists ever.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a true
yeah.
fact. It's
They
a
say a
true fact.
2-year-old is the pound for
It
pound the most
100,
dangerous nurse.
they are, but why? They have a need that needs to be met, and they only know how to manipulate to get that need met, because they cannot properly communicate to you how to get the need met. And if the parent is not receptive to understanding that need, then they'll do what they have to get the need met. And
Yeah.
so little kids are narcissists. And I don't know, maybe psychopath, I don't know. But at the end of the day, as they grow, these things fall off of us.
Right.
Some of us, they don't fall off of, because their needs were never met. And so they still continue the behavior. And that's why I say you can undo all of that. I guarantee you can undo all of that. However, this is why at the end of the day, it always comes back to spirituality. It always comes back to God. God is the only one that can change that. No one else can change it. You can spend years of therapy. You can spend your entire life searching for the answer and never find it. You can spend 20 minutes in the Word and find the answer like that you've been searching for 20 years.
Well, on
And
that
this is
note,
the beauty
I'll let
of
you
it. So
finish.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. So Joshua, I would like to continue this. I love our
Yeah.
ongoing series, and I know our viewers love it too. So I'm going to go ahead to my mother's. I'm going to be seeing my cousin this weekend, and hopefully we'll chit chat on the next, figure out when we're going to do this again. But
yeah, absolutely. It was been a good conversation. I loved it. So
I enjoy
really so
talking to you
much.
too. And you know what's so funny is, like, 2 minutes before you, or I don't even know, 30 seconds before you said something about the connection or whatever, the group building, I kind of had a vision too of like just some
Well,
growth
it's not me.
somehow.
It's not me. You got to understand, God's building, you know, I just happen to have all the leadership qualities from the military, but also being solo and being the orphan and having to get my own way in life and doing a lot of things. So that's the reason why, you know, and a lot of people, they can't stand me because I have the leadership, and God is about to
That's
put
right.
me in that. They about to put me in that position, but at the end of the day, I have to be able to lead right. And I'll give you guys some information later on that next time about the thoughts that, you know, God put in my head about being a leader and what that meant.
Yeah,
But
that'll be our next topic.
yeah, so it's been really good, and yeah, I can see it happening. God is basically building an army, because I think we're about to go to war. Hey, be prepared. Be prepared. It's scary, but hey, be on the right side. Be on the right team.
That's the main point.
Team Jesus. Team Jesus.
Thanks so much, Josh. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon. See you later.
Bye-bye.